welcome to my new home and my new hair. And I figured since we're doing new things, it's September when you watch this video at least, it's new home, it's another great new start kind of vibes. So I thought what I would do today was maybe chat with you about my works in progress. This is not something I've typically talked about before, and a huge part of the reason for that is because I get so internally anxious about the idea that I'm gonna talk about a project here on YouTube, in the public eye, and then I'm never gonna finish that project and people are gonna be disappointed because I got excited about it when I pitched it. So a disclaimer before we begin. As much as I would love to publish every book with every idea for every book I ever get, wait, what? No, the phrasing of that was wonky, wasn't it? As much as I would love to be able to publish, to write every idea for every book I ever get and publish every idea for every book I ever get, or at least every book I ever write, that's not necessarily an excellent publishing plan, and even if it was, I have a limited amount of time to be able to actually do the writing thing. So I have to stick to what I can fit into my schedule, and that means I do things like make priorities and make decisions based on those priorities. So for example, the fact of the matter is I have a book out already. It's called Mary Arlan Breaking the Curse. It's part 1 of the Guardian Cadet series. So the priority is, of course, part 2 of the Guardian Cadet series. This is one of my feedback copies. I have a few of them that got sent out. It's not it looks really skinny, but you've got to bear in mind that there's a lot packed into each page of this in a way that there isn't it's not the same layout as a book. This one is about 10,000 words under the word count I want it to be. But I figure that by the time my feedback readers have come back and said, when is this, and can you describe, and all of these little things that feedback readers do, it'll bump that word count right back up again. Because it did the first time, so I'm just working on the assumption that it's going to match. So, considering that I have been writing this for almost a year and a half now, what's the deal? The deal is that apparently it's going to take me about a year and a half, maybe 2 years, to write each book, which is a bit sad because I know people who can get them out in mere months. I wish I was one of those people. I'm not. So if I'm working on this now, what do I mean by other work in progresses? And also, how do I keep my ideas in my head? These are the questions I'm going to be answering for you today. So, okay. Step 1. How do I keep all my ideas straight? This is my collection point. It started life as an attempt at bullet journaling, the traditional method, not the aesthetic method. And then I started, because I wanted to be able to collect all of my ideas, I started just writing down my book ideas in it, because you can do that when you're bullet journaling. It's just a notebook. And then it basically got filled up with book ideas and other book related stuff, like what is front and back matter and all those important notes. So now it's just a collection point. I have a different diary calendar thing. So all of my book ideas get given a working title, terrible working title, and they get written down into this one list, and then they get a short pitch written about them. Now, part of the reason I decided to make this video at all was because I watched a video by an author called Michelle Schusterman. I really like her stuff. I highly recommend watching her. If you like watching her YouTube channel, and not just seeking her out and watching her do what she does, that would be really weird. Please don't do that. But watching her YouTube channel if you're interested in publishing, especially traditional publishing or writing in general. But yeah, she talked about how one of the things that she does for every single book she writes is she writes a 1-sentence pitch for it. What is the core heart of the story? And it made me realise that that is what I have been doing in here, except not quite contained to a single. The first book idea I wrote down here is a cosy demon mystery novel. The premise for which was private investigators Tam and Hannah have secrets to hide, vengeance to seek, and a business to run. When police detective Yusha Sandoval, Hannah childhood friend and the one that got away, calls for Tam and Hannah help, they don't even think twice before turning up to the crime scene to check things out, and put each of their unique talents to work, only to discover the murderer of one of the most prolific business people in town. But what happens when the investigation takes Hannah and Tam to places they swore they'd never go again, and risks revealing secrets that will hurt not just the business, but will put Hannah and Tam's very lives in danger. This turned into an open investigation, which I only posted chapter 1 for over on Nopoodles.wordpress.com. I'll try and remember to leave the link in the description to that specifically, but you can just search open investigation on Nopoodles.wordpress.com. I know that's a hell of a step, so I'll try and minimise the steps for you, but I'm never going to finish writing this story. It's not going to happen. Well, I'm very unlikely to finish writing this story. It's not going to happen. But it was fun, and I wanted to write down the idea for it. These are the kinds of things that go into my collection point. Because then if I do ever want to come back to it, I've got that pitch right there. I know exactly what I was talking about. I've got a section in this one called Secrets I Know as the Author, because in a cozy mystery you've got to have secrets. I'm not going to share them with you just on the off chance I ever write this book. But like I said, if I'd have shared that when I started working on it, if I was there like, I'm really excited about this cozy mystery I'm writing, and then just went, I'm not writing it, I'd feel really bad about that. Like, I at least preempted this with, I'm not going to write this. In all likelihood. But it also has in my collection point things like tropes and any inspiration that I have. So like tropes that I know I'm intentionally including, inspiration that got me to think about this. So that can be like movies, games, books, and music usually. I start a lot of things just to get a feel for them, just to get the vibes, and then I decide from there whether I'm going to continue. So, collection point explained. What are my actual works in progress, and how are they different to everything that's in here? So everything that's in here is a concept, an idea. Maybe there's a little bit of writing for it, but not much. What I would count as a work in progress is an actual, something that I have actual progress made on. What do I mean? I mean I have, let's just talk about Mary Arlan, the second one. The sequel. Mary Arlan, the sequel. No, it's got a real title, but I will be revealing it when I'm good and ready. Unless you've read the first book, in which case it's in the back of the first book. If you really desperately want to know, buy book 1. You can physically see the progress I've made on this. This is a feedback reader copy. This is theoretically nearly done. Are they all this far towards being done? And how many of them are there? So if you follow me on Instagram, you'll probably have heard me talk, or Tumblr actually, you'll probably have heard me talking, yes I still have a Tumblr, you'll probably have heard me talking about this thing. This is Project Welcome. It also has a real title, which is why I won't be showing you the front, because the front has the real title on it. This is my sci-fi dystopia story. It's a, not one shot, that's not what it's called. It's a standalone. It's a standalone. It's based on a series of short stories from Nopoodles.wordpress.com called the Welcome series. This resembles that in the form of all of the characters in that still exist. Ravi and Blue are still some of the main characters. Petite still exists as she exists in that stories, but is no longer a perspective character. She has been replaced by a different perspective character. This now has 3 converging timelines, 3 different perspectives, and sort of 3 stories that tie into one. It's a very complex novel, I'll be honest with you. This is my secondary project. This is the thing that I'm working on next. This is the thing that comes next in the publishing plan, provided this round of edits goes well. However, It may take a little bit longer because, as I said, it's 3 timelines converging together. That is really freaking complicated. But this is the thing that I'm working on while the second book in the Guardian Cadet series is out with feedback readers. This is what I've picked up, with the theory that it's going to be the next thing that comes out. What's the premise? What does it mean to be human? Ravi has been reanimated, brought back to life by the military for purposes he hasn't been informed of. Struggling with his altered body, his new status as ex-human, and the potentially nefarious purposes behind his reanimation, Ravi meets a plucky cyborg and an overworked engineer calling themselves the Resistance. They give Ravi a choice: join them and the Resistance, or wait and see what the military wants from him. So that's it, right? Those are all my works in progress. Ah, ha, 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 you fool! No, there are 3 more. So, as I said, the Welcome series, it's not called the Welcome series, that's what the short story is called. As I said, Project Welcome, as it's currently entitled, is a standalone. And I'll be honest, according to my research, standalones, not that great for self-publishing authors and independent authors. So I do also have a couple of series on the horizon. What are they? Well, let me show you my generic writing folder. This has got a clipboard thing. This holds everything about my writing that doesn't have its own specific spot. Like I have this Sci-Fi series, we'll get to that, which has its own folder because there's going to be lots of books in the same universe. And I needed somewhere to keep all of my notes for like a universe-based encyclopedia. But anyway, if we just flick past some of my notes, we come to this. These pages, I don't know how many of them there are because they're not numbered, are from what I'm currently entitling my pirate project. Now I started my pirate project in 2019, in April Camp NaNoWriMo 2019. I got 50,000 words of a novel done, no climax. Very frustrating. And then while I was in the process of publishing Mary Arlan Breaking the Curse, I needed something to do with my time, so I went back to my private project. And I was like, do you know what? This would probably be easier if I knew more of the main character's backstory. Backstory. So that's going to be a novel. A full one, and then what I wrote for 2019's Camp NaNoWriMo is going to be the sequel, and then there's very likely to be a third one because I can see how the plan plays out. But I'm not guaranteeing anything, to be honest, because the guarantees don't work well for me. The premise for these, or at least the premise for the first one, is Nat is a dandy who's been captured by pirates. Theory is the pirates will ransom them back to their family. Problem is Nat's family doesn't really want them back. Heart-wrenching, I know. It's a really lovely series. I'm so excited about it. I keep having conversations with my wife about the business plan, about what I'm going to publish next and what is the most sensible thing to publish next, because of like all of the like business strategy parts of things, which I hate, and then also because of like the size of different projects, because like the more books in a series, the longer it will take to write. The longer it takes to write, the longer I'm going to have to take to write it. Like, I know that sounds really, well, yeah, but my point is that the longer it takes to write, the more of my time I'm going to be spending on that. The more of my time I spend on it, the more likely I am to get annoyed with it. Which I know is kind of self-sabotaging, but what are you going to do? So this one, this pirate project, having theoretically 3 books in it, is a really nice one because there's only 3 books. So even if it does take me a year and a half to write each of them, which theoretically it shouldn't because I've already got a large part of 2 of them written, again, you're starting to see how all of these spiderwebs chaotically collide. But yeah, because I've got parts of 2 of them written, it shouldn't take, but even if it does take 18 months for each of them to be written, which is my guesstimation based on my current working strategy in progress, so even if it does take 18 months, so a year and a half times by 3 is what, 4.5 years? versus my sci-fi series, which is 9 books planned out. We'll get to that. The other thing I have in my writing folder is my NaNoWriMo 2021 project, which is entitled Fae Courts, unless you're on the NaNoWriMo site, in which case you'll see its actual title. I haven't written the premise down on that one, hang on. So this one I just did for like funsies, honestly. Is that bad? No. So this one was mostly just because I needed to not be doing. This is what I mean about self-sabotagey or whatever. Like, in the grand scheme of things, my brain needs the chaos of writing things that are different from what I have been writing. Like when I got to Camp NaNoWriMo 2021, I was thinking to myself, what shall I write? Shall I write my sci-fi novel? Shall I write my pirate novel? Shall I write the sequel to the Guardian Cadet series? Sequel to Mary Ellen Breaking the Curse? Should I do that? And then all of those thoughts went, nah, let's write a Fae Court novel. So far there's only one of these planned, but I'll be honest, it could become more. The premise is, Sarah is fine. She hates her job, but who doesn't? And she's barely scraping by enough to keep her crappy flat, but she isn't going to move back in with her parents over the age of 30, especially when the neighbour's daughter has just bought a house in the neighbourhood and is having a baby. So, when Sarah gets summoned to a strange world, she decides to make the best of it. Marrying a Fae King can't be that much worse than working retail and coming up with new excuses as to why she can't make it home for the holidays. This is another one of these projects where I actually have quite a lot of it written. And as I was writing it, the premise has changed mildly from what its original inception was. Sarah's is pretty much the same. It's mostly Erd who's changed, but yeah, I love it. It's another trio perspective novel. There's polyamory involved. It's great. It's a lot of fun. When's it gonna come out? Who even fucking knows? Because my plan is, well, I say my plan, a theoretical semblance of a plan is pirates and then my 9-book sci-fi series. 9-book sci-fi series? Book 1. This was my 2020 NaNoWriMo project. This was the easiest book I have ever written. I'm going to explain why. And I'm going to talk to you about how far along this is, what it's about, all that jazz. So I think the thing that made this the easiest book I've ever written is because I actually did a little bit of preparation on. So I don't know if you saw my Pantsers Preptober planning video. I mean, it was back in 2020, so you probably didn't. I'll link it. But basically in that, I tried to come up with ways that a pantser like myself, someone who writes by the seat of their pants and doesn't outline beforehand, could use October to prepare for NaNoWriMo. I did all the stuff I said in that video that I was going to do. I actually did all of that stuff in 2020. And then when 2021 came around, I was like, no, I don't need to prepare. And then I had a much harder time of it. This is 50,000 words. It wasn't in NaNoWriMo. I carried on writing into December. But this is 50,000 words. And by the time, again, I've gone through, because this is a feedback reader copy, but by the time I've gone through and added all of included the feedback, like done all the feedback things, it's going to be a lot more. And again, you're thinking, that looks pretty freaking small for 50,000 words. I accidentally made it a really teeny tiny copy. Hang on, let me just show you the teeny tiny text. This was, the formatting on the inside is supposed to be an A4 copy, and then I was cheap and I printed it A5. That's a lot smaller than I intended. And oh my gosh, it's literally nearly done. And I have 8 other books set in this universe. Yeah, so the premise is also not in here. Basti finally has a ship. Now all he needs is a deep space travel license. but with a ragtag crew, an overbearing overseer, and a surprising lack of available jobs, Basti's dream seems further away than ever. 9 books. I haven't written any of the rest of them. Well, that's not strictly true. I've written little tiny pieces, random scenes dotted here and there throughout the other ones. But I haven't really written that much of any of the others. I have titles for all of them. I have premises for all of them. I haven't written them all up into here. They're all in, I have a specific folder. This is the thing that I have the specific folder for, which is basically another folder like this, full of stuff, without the clipboard bit on the front. But yeah, 9 books. 3 of them follow the same crew. Most of them don't. They're all set in the same universe, and they all have the same basic fundamental premise. Everything is contained within the system of government that oversees the thing. Think Starfleet, or like the Council in Starfleet in Star Trek, or the Council in Mass Effect. That kind of overseeing government that like does trade agreements and sort of bureaucracy. It's a bureaucracy, and it's basically, the premise is that each of these books follows a small crew trying to work within that bureaucracy. I hope you found this at least entertaining, if not helpful. If you want to find me or my books or anything else, all the links for everything you possibly need, including a link to my coffee account if you feel like supporting the channel, are listed in the description box below, right next to the like and subscribe buttons if you feel like sticking around. You can read the first 3 chapters of Mary Arlan Breaking the Curse completely free if you sign up to my mailing list. I also share free weekly short stories over on Nopoodles.wordpress.com. Right now it's a series called Recompense about a werewolf and a vampire who are living together as a payment for something that the pack did to wrong the vampire. And it's basically just them getting to know one another and like clashing because they have such counterintuitive values. It's great. It's a lot of fun. I really like it. Also it's free, so like don't complain. Have a great day, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye.